Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome to my hobby vlog. I have a new setup here. I keep looking that way because that's where my computer is. I got a new desk, and right now I have the camera on a tripod, and I have my little speaker here, which is hopefully it's picking up. I did a few tests, made sure, and it seemed to be going well. But today we are going to be doing a review finally of a film by Jess Franco from 1980, and it is called Two Female Spies with Flowered Panties. This movie is exactly what you think it is. It has a really interesting story in that there really isn't one story throughout this movie. This movie is very emblematic, which I'll go into later, of Jess Franco's 80s output, where he did not want to be constrained by genre. And I really appreciated that part. Actually watching the movie is painful. But before we get into that, let me read what the synopsis is so you can see what I mean. In this long unseen shocker from one of filmdom's most provocative creators, the legendary Jess Franco pushes the limits of psychosexual insanity like never before. Lena Romay and Lynn Montel star as a pair of cunning bisexual strippers released from prison to work undercover for the U.S. government. What follows is a deranged melange of kinky threesomes, crazed S&M, depraved white slavers, and audacious international politics that will leave even the most obsessive Franco fanatics slack-jawed in astonishment. This movie is very, again, it's exactly what you think it's going to be. The notes that I wrote while watching this movie is that this is a very low budget movie, and I will get into that because it was, to keep it simple. And the acting I thought was very, I don't want to say amateurish, but it felt like he just got anybody. And these are, of course, very beautiful women that we are working with in this movie. And this is a sexploitation movie directed by Jess Franco. I understand that acting is not what I should be looking for in this movie, but there are a lot of sex scenes in this movie because, again, they are working undercover for the U.S. government. And there are many points in the movie where they are having sex, and you see some pretty fucked up shit going on where they are holding knives up to women's vaginas and telling people, the various prostitutes and slaves that they have, the sex slaves, all the different degrading things that they have to do. They have multimillionaires buying these women up for the night and doing whatever they want. And it kind of jumps from that all the way to a spy story. And then it jumps to a sort of peace-loving hippies wanting to overthrow the cops. And one of our women of the two sort of red lips girls, which was a archetype of character that Jess Franco does in a lot of his movies. We have our two women teamed up together, being sexy, being just amazing, getting things done, leading the plot, talking to everybody around, trying to figure out what's going on. And this movie just sort of jumps from one story to the other. And it was very bizarre, very jarring. I understand, though, because we are talking about Jess Franco. And I said that there was an awesome part where two guards are sort of patrolling the house that we see all these women being prostituted at. One of them is like, oh my gosh, set me free, set me free. And one of our protagonists is taking a picture because they're a spy. They're trying to find missing people. And the guard almost finds her while she's taking pictures. And there's a parrot right beside her somehow. We don't really know where this parrot came from. And the gods are like, oh, it's that damn parrot. And it's like, fuck me, fuck me. And it's this parrot saying these things, and it's absolutely hilarious. It got me interested in the movie again. This was at I want to say the 30-minute mark. This is a very slow movie. There's a lot of music missing, I feel like, because a lot of the characters are having sex, doing strip teases, and it's just very awkward. This movie is so awkward to me because it could have been a lot more exciting. It could have been like Two Undercover Angels, which at one point in the movie I wrote down that this movie wishes it was Two Undercover Angels. I think that's one of my favorite Jess Franco movies that I've seen yet. I think I've seen about 4 to 6 of them. And that one had a very similar storyline, very similar characters, a different setting, but still has a lot of disco going on. And that movie had some of the best, I hate to say it this way, but striptease sequences because of the music, not because of the striptease. The only thing good about it was the costumes that the women were wearing, because they were flashy, they were sexy, and they were absolutely just commandeered the screen. And I really appreciated the use of music in that movie, because in this movie, it does not work at all. I really did not like it in terms of that. I thought overall this movie was just a 3-star, maybe at the most 3.5 if I factor in the special features that this movie came with on the Severin Blu-ray. But I just really had a hard time with this, because it's around the 40-minute mark that we get a rape scene that is absolutely incredibly awkward, because it's supposed to be played for yucks and for laughs and for comedy, and it's for it is for our one gay character in this film, who is actually the most proactive character in the movie, getting shit done. And during this section, they one of the women rape him, and he's yelling like, no, no, stop this, you are raping me. That is the line, you are raping me. And it's still like zany music going on. It's very like, oh, haha, like a man is getting raped, which is a very frustrating thing to see. It's 1980. Stephen Thrower talks about this, where he says like it's really hard to judge it, because he is also the most proactive character, where Jess Franco was being quite progressive by the fact that this character was such a important part of the story, but he is still given this disgusting scene, and it's a shame. And I'll just say it now instead of waiting for the special features, but there are 2 cuts of the film, one of which is the English cut and then the Spanish cut. The Spanish cut is a totally different movie. 30 minutes of footage in that movie does not appear in Two Female Spies, and 30 minutes of footage in Two Female Spies does not match up with the Spanish cut of the film. And it's really bizarre. I haven't watched the Spanish cut of the film. It does come with this release, but one day I'll watch it. I just wasn't interested enough. But apparently it is the superior cut. I was reading it right before I pressed record, because I was kind of seeing what other people thought of it. And I was shocked to see that it was the superior cut. I would have played it had I known. But I always go into movies blind. I did read the synopsis before I started, and just to kind of set myself in the mood. Apparently I should not have read it, because this movie is just okay. And in the original Spanish cut of the movie, to go back to our gay character, he, in the English cut, the one I saw, he is so wowed by our main lead that he decides, you know what? I'm not gay anymore. I'm going to marry you and be with you for the rest of my life. Yippee! And I hate it. I did not like that at all. I thought it was very. It just wasn't right. Being gay is not a choice. It is something that you just are. Whether you're gay, bisexual, straight, all of those, you can't decide that. That's just who you are, and it's part of you, and it's not a choice, is my point. And so it was really frustrating to see that. I mean, whatever, 1980, fine. But in the Spanish cut of the movie, he is still gay at the end and is basically proclaimed the hero of the story because he does do a lot for the story. And I really wish I had seen the Spanish cut, but I wanted to sort of save that for later because there's a point in the Stephen Thrower interview where he mentions that you've never seen a Franco film until you've seen them all, meaning that you need to see all of his works before you can start really analyzing his style, his body of work, all of that. And I get it. I talk about I think I've reviewed every movie that I've seen by Jess Franco on this channel. And every time I say, I get him a little bit more, especially after the special features on these releases, because the first movie I saw was Lesbos Vampiros, or Vampiros Lesbos. Which I have right here. And this was my first Franco film that I bought, I think, in 2016, 2017, maybe at the latest. And I did not like it at all. But my good friend Will, who has been on the channel, he's a huge Jess Franco fan, and that's why I got it, and I didn't like it, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit on this. I'm going to familiarize myself with the exploitation genre and just get more in tune with exploitation and these type of films that are really bizarre, jarring, are not structurally able to make sense of the structure. So this movie was not at all, I wasn't ready. And so to go back to the point of you haven't seen a Jess Franco film until you've seen them all, every movie that I watch, I say on the review, oh my gosh, I can understand him a little bit more. And after this one, I know him just a tiny bit more. I'm not familiar with his 80s output. I've seen a lot more of his 60s and 70s at this point. But this movie is a very good bridge for me, I think. And I hope that this movie will kind of usher me into a new wave of Jess Franco. I have a lot of his releases, or 7 releases of his films out there, and I can't wait to watch them all. It'll be really exciting, but I went on a whole tangent there. I apologize. But I said it got a little bit better once he started using more music. This is around the 50-minute mark. I was kind of just noting down the highlights for me of this movie because I just was kind of going back and forth on it for most of it. But, and I have my funny note here saying that this movie wishes it was 2 undercover angels. Stephen Thrower talks about this in his interview, but he said that Jess Franco never really had access to money and that he had to be really selective when asking for money. And there's a very particular part of this movie that made me think, Jess Franco got a lot of money for this. I feel like this is sort of the thing they're going to put into the trailer and that the studio was happy to pay for. And that is the helicopter attack scene where one of our 2 female spies, she boards a helicopter and uses a submachine gun to rain hell on people. Or it's not her, it's the antagonist who rapes the gay man. she fires on the hippies that one of our characters is hanging out with for a little bit of the story. And uh, you can tell a lot of the budget was spent there, probably 99% of it, because it is very well shot, very clear, very exciting. There's bullets, there's explosions, there's fire, there's people yelling. This is the most exciting part for me in the story, although I really enjoy sort of the club scenes where we get sort of the sadistic owner doing the crazy shit, because that's who Jess Franco sort of is as a director, is somebody who will go that extra step that a lot of directors won't. And for the rest of the movie, I wasn't really blown away. I think it was Dr. Orloff where the ending just blew me away, and I was very happy after watching that movie. But this movie is sort of just continues its sort of average rating. And I will say the dialogue and the dubbing of the gay man is probably the worst I've ever heard, and it kept me entertained because you can tell that that voice just does not match the actor. It's a very, very high pitched voice, and it has just the most bizarre dialogue that I've ever seen in a Jess Franco, and that's saying a lot. And I just really appreciated that, I guess. It kept the movie interesting to the end, but that was really it, keeping the movie interesting, because it's weird dialogue. This is a Jess Franco film. I mean, I'm really reaching here on what else to talk about, because I just don't have many feelings about this movie. I wouldn't say it's the worst of his, because there are his 80s films that I've seen with Brigitte Lahaye. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, but those ones were just, oh my god. I did not like those. I thought they were absolute bores to me. I was falling asleep almost instantaneously, and those were his pornographic films, I believe. So even when it's pornographic, it was awful. It was not interesting whatsoever. But there's a really small detail that I wish was expanded upon a bit more, where our main antagonist woman has a ring and she shines it at people and they are falling into hypnosis. She does it 3 or 4 times throughout this movie, and it's just not exciting when she does it. She holds it up and she's just staring at the camera, and while it glitters in on her finger. And I wish there was literally any music during that scene, because it's a minute long. Stephen Thrower talks about how this period of his life was a lot more longer takes and longer shots, because they did not have as much money for these shoots. So kind of just had to keep it going, because if you don't, you have to throw away that footage, and that's a waste of money. So that's really my overall feeling about the movie, but I would like to talk about the special features now. The first one of which is an interview with Jess Franco from probably the early 2000s, late 90s maybe, which is about 10 minutes long. He talks about how they shot at the Canary Isles in Spain, or Portugal, I believe, one of those. And he says that they were able to film at a lot of locations that were basically untouched for thousands and maybe dozens of thousands of years, because they film at Valoron's monastery, where a couple of our bikers and hippies show up at, and it's caves all around in the rocks, and it goes deep. There's a scene where they go in and have sex, and Jess Franco was talking about how thousands of years ago people lived in these caves and would basically hide from the heat because it's a very hot area around this isle because the sun is just constantly beaming down on them. And Jess Franco talks about how he had a few people complain about the shooting condition because it was quite hot, but he said it was one of his favorite locations to shoot because it is so beautiful. It's very atmospheric, especially for this type of movie, with our sexy spies and our sadistic uh, exploiters of everybody. And I agree with him. I thought it was a great location. That was honestly what I was looking at most throughout this movie. And he said that it was a very fabulous experience working on this movie. He said there were a lot of hiccups with technicians, with the lighting, audio. The cinematographer had a lot of his shots blurry, and they had to reshoot a lot of that. And actually, they didn't reshoot it. They just threw that out for the English cut and made Jess Franco reshoot a lot of different scenes that had more TNA, as they call it. And he didn't do that. He just did different scenes that I think he would have done if he was given the okay to do a 2-hour edition, for example, or version of it at least. And he talks about how they shot at the supposed house of Christopher Columbus when he first set sail from Spain and stopped at the Isles before crossing the ocean. He said he wasn't able to really find a source on that, but he said it was still a fucking awesome looking house because it was this giant manor and was by the seaside, and that's where most of the movie is shot, so you're able to see that. And so, again, best part of the movie for me was the settings and locations. This movie is based on a wide range of novels written by Gerard de Villiers. I don't know if I said that right. He's a French author. And these novels are all about spies. So this movie is very much an adaptation, maybe a homage to this genre of stories from Spain. And he says that this was around the time where he did not like to be defined into one genre. And I've talked about this a little bit already. And said that he wanted to do a mix of many. So I sort of view him as like a gumbo stew type of guy, where he's putting in a lot of different things, ingredients and aspects to really give the movie its flair, the Jess Franco flair. And next we have an interview with Donald Farmer, who is a shot-on-video director king. Everybody should watch at least one of his films. Quite a few of them have come out on Saturn's Koi, including Red Lips, which is hilarious because Jess Franco made a movie called Red Lips back in the 70s, and Donald Farmer made Red Lips the movie in the 90s. With what's her name? Michelle Bauer. So it's sort of amazing that Donald Farmer is such a Francophile because I didn't really connect that. I thought it was a funny coincidence. I think there's even a haul video where I talk about that, where I hold this up and I say, yeah, this is the Jess Franco movie. Not realizing that it's actually Donald Farmer giving a homage to Jess Franco, to the master. And it's a 10-minute interview with Donald Farmer and the composer of the film. And the composer talks about how Jess Franco's greatest strength as a director is how much of a man of many trades he is. Or as he says, full package. Saying that if somebody is lacking in lighting or audio or holding the camera or really just anything on the film set, he will step in and do it. And I think that's a very interesting part of Jess Franco, is that he is definitely somebody who is skilled in a lot of different places, and he brings that to the table with each of his movies, having the weird editing, weird music that he sometimes writes himself. And I don't know if he's performed. I think he's sung a theme song from the 1960s movie, but one of his 1960s films. But I can't remember. The composer mentioned that the producers almost always fuck up the movies because they want to put in their own changes, and so he said that Jess Franco would be like, okay, here you go, release the movie, and they'd be like, wait a minute, one thing, editing the movie, whatever they want to do, and the composer said that they basically turned really good movies into just okay, just fine. And again, I hate this. Every director ever should always have final cut. David Lynch, if you remember, had a lot of issues making Dune because of that. He said that was the one time he did not elect to do the final cut option as a director, and he said he's not doing that again. And he hasn't since, and all his movies since have been 5 out of 5 masterpieces. So there's something to that. Talked about how Jess Franco would just randomly call up the composer and would be like, hey, let's go meet in the city on the street at 9 p.m. Sunday. And it would be like Monday. So the composer would travel down. For this movie, it was Paris, France that they met. Or London, I apologize. It was London they met with the producer. And the composer kind of went into some kind of hardships that he went through when working with Jess Franco because of the producers. He said that the producers would never pay him on time. They would say, you need to wait 3 weeks before cashing this check, and it'll be good. And he would cash it in, and they'd be like, there's no money in this bank account. Like, fuck you. And the producer would be like, sorry, and just not give him money. And he said he still owed quite a number of thousands of pounds that he's waiting for, and he doesn't expect to get them, which was a pretty sad thing to hear. But I hope he is paid. But lastly, the composer talked about how shocked he was that these movies were so well received by the Americans, the American industry, or at least in cult spheres. And I really, I guess, am not surprised because this movie especially, I just did not really relate to anything in it. I did not engage with it really all that much at all compared to other Jess Franco movies, and I'm surprised that the composer didn't put in any more music. I don't know if that was because of the producer taking out music and just being like, just show the sex scene or the striptease or whatever. I don't know if the producers were creepy on this or not. I'm not going to even assume, but I wish they would not have cut up the movie as they did between the English and Spanish cuts. And then lastly, we have an amazing interview with Stephen Thrower, who has been on every single release with Jess Franco, through Severin, Blue Underground, Vinegar Syndrome. Has Synapse done any Jess Francos? I don't know. But he's always on there. He always comes with so much info. And I recommend everybody to at least watch this one. I've talked about a lot, actually, on here that I had saved for the section. But he talks about how this movie really felt like Jess Franco was challenged to write a script within 2.5 hours after given the go-ahead to make the script. And so Jess Franco, again, he puts in a lot of random stuff and a lot of storylines in his movies. And not just Franco, Stephen Thrower kind of re-emphasized that and showed different scenes where he's like, okay, we're having our sexploitation movie. Okay, now we're having our comedy film where our gay character gets raped. And then our next sort of section of the movie is a post-apocalyptic sort of easy rider type of story where all these hippies come on motorcycles with really cool costumes and they hang out and smoke weed and play music. And now we're back to the exploitation. And I really like that. Stephen Thrower talks about how a lot of people do not like that. And I can understand it. And I really do not typically like it. But the more I think about it, it is very interesting. But I need to watch more before I can really give a decision on if I full-heartedly like it or if I don't. And so far, I like it moderately. I'm okay with movies going off in different directions, but I want it to still be interesting. The Easy Rider section, I called it, that's the most interesting sort of side story that goes on. One of them escapes from the prostitute house, or the at least the brothel, where they are being kidnapped and kept there. And one of them escapes, one's off with our gay character, ends up with an entire gang of motorcyclists where they want to sort of take down the pro-capitalist police. And I appreciate that. I always appreciate an anti-capitalist story and characters. So I was pretty excited to see that. But it doesn't really go anywhere outside of our gay character solving basically everything for everybody and being so proactive and getting shit done. It was really nice. But there's really not much else for me to talk about. I talked a lot about the Stephen Thrower interview throughout, so I apologize if you wanted me to do it in sections, but I go on tandems and tangents, so I kind of just keep going and going. But I had a lot of fun going through this release. I don't know if I'll ever watch this movie again. I'll definitely check out the Spanish cut of the film, but I don't know if this is in last place or not in my ranking of Jess Franco films. I would go check out my letterbox for that. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and please have a great rest of the day.